And for 90 days, a seed can break the soil, a body can be remade, a mind can be rewired. But the deeper question is not what you do for 90 days. It is who you allow yourself to become. And if you choose these practices with sincerity, you will not simply return different. You will return closer to what you always were. Inside every person lives a figure they pretend not to know, and it hides in the corners of polite smiles, in the justifications we make for small cruelties, in the sudden flare of rage at those who mirror our own weaknesses. And this figure is not a demon outside of you, it is a fragment of your own being. For 90 days you must dare to meet it. The shadow is composed of all that you deny, repress, or exile. As a child, and you were told which qualities would win approval, and which would bring punishment or shame. You kept the acceptable traits and banished the rest. But banishment does not erase, it buries. And what is buried grows restless. The ambition you condemned as arrogance, the sensitivity you hid because it was mocked, and the aggression you feared might hurt someone, all of these still live within you, but in secret. The shadow waits in dreams, in slips of the tongue, in sudden moods that feel alien. To confront it, you must first see it. For 90 days, take up a notebook and write down every reaction that unsettles you. Record the moments of envy, when another's success burns in your chest. And note the moments of irritation that seem too sharp for the situation. And watch for the patterns in your judgments. What you condemn most loudly in others often reveals the trait you cannot bear in yourself. Each page of your notebook becomes a mirror, and each line a candle in the cave of your unconscious. This practice is not about confession or guilt. It is about sight. The shadow is neither evil nor good, it is energy. And to deny it is to remain half alive, to face it is to reclaim vitality. Imagine a man who suppresses his anger, he calls himself peaceful. But beneath the surface he resents, he festers, and he avoids conflict while breeding it silently. Now imagine that same man acknowledging his anger, learning to use it as a boundary, a force of clarity, a declaration of self-worth. And the energy has not changed, but its direction has. Over 90 days you will feel resistance. The shadow does not like exposure. At times the pen will tremble in your hand. At times, and the entries will feel repetitive, as if you are circling the same wound again and again. Do not stop. Circling is part of the descent. The deeper you go, the more faces the shadow will reveal. You may discover that what you feared as monstrous is only wounded, only neglected, only waiting for your acknowledgement. The work is not to destroy the shadow, but to integrate it. Integration is the act of saying, "This too is me." It is the slow recognition that you are capable of cruelty and compassion, destruction and creation, pettiness and greatness, and the one who sees both without flinching is stronger than the one who clings to a false mask of purity. The mask breaks, the integrated self endures, the world is a storm of voices. Notifications hum, screens glow, conversations collide, and obligations press against the edges of your awareness until you no longer know where the noise ends and you begin. For 90 days, and you must carve out a sanctuary, a space where the world falls silent, and you are left with nothing but yourself. Solitude is not loneliness, it is the art of returning to your own presence. Every day, and step away for 10 minutes. Do not take your phone, do not bring a book, do not turn on music. Sit in a chair, stand by a tree, walk an empty path, anywhere that allows your mind to rest in stillness. At first, the silence will feel unbearable. You will itch for distraction, your thoughts will race, your body will fidget. This is not failure, this is withdrawal. And you are detoxing from the addiction to constant stimulation, and like all detox, it begins with restlessness. Endure it. Beneath that restlessness lies clarity. When the world goes quiet, and your deeper voice begins to surface, you may hear whispers of desires you have ignored, memories you thought forgotten, or questions that stir unease. This is the inner self speaking, and the self drowned out by constant motion. For 90 days give it a chance to speak. Keep a journal nearby, and when the silence yields a word, a phrase, or an image, write it down. And these fragments are not random, they are fragments of your own truth rising from below. Solitude sharpens perception. The sound of your breath becomes an anchor, and the shifting of your thoughts becomes visible. The way emotions rise and fall without your control becomes undeniable. Most people run from this awareness because it strips away illusions of mastery. Yet to see clearly is to begin to live consciously. To witness yourself without escape is to reclaim the freedom that distraction has stolen. In solitude, the boundaries between the inner and outer blur, and a tree you pass every day suddenly appears alive, its branches a web of patient time. The air carries a texture, a weight, a rhythm you never noticed. And the silence outside begins to reflect the silence within. It is here that the ordinary transforms into the sacred. What seems small and mundane becomes vast when seen with undistracted eyes. And this practice, sustained for 90 days, becomes a ritual of descent. Each day 10 minutes deeper into yourself. Each day the noise stripped away. Each day the veil lifted a little more. You may find that solitude brings not comfort, but confrontation. When the chatter fades, grief may rise, anger may surface, long-suppressed longing may stretch its arms. Do not turn away. These are not enemies. They are companions who have been waiting for your attention. Solitude is the crucible in which the fragments of the self begin to gather. It is the forge where clarity takes shape, where strength is tempered, where the scattered pieces of your being begin to draw together in silence, and waiting for you to notice them without turning away. Most lives are built on repetition, but repetition without meaning becomes decay. You wake, you work, you eat, you sleep. The hours blur, and the days collapse into each other, and the spirit begins to starve. For 90 days you are invited to shift the smallest acts of living into sacred gestures, and the difference between a routine and a ritual is not the action, but the awareness with which you carry it. When you rise in the morning, do not simply stumble into the day. Pause, and let the act of opening your eyes become a threshold. Before you touch the phone, before you speak, breathe in the weight of being alive. Feel the quiet moment between dreaming and waking as a doorway. And if you choose, light a candle, stretch your body, drink water slowly, as if you are consecrating your return to the world. This is not habit. This is devotion. When you eat, and do not treat the meal as fuel thrown into a machine. Notice the textures, the scents, the warmth of the food in your mouth. Remember that what you hold was once soil, sun, water, and life. A routine is chewing quickly while distracted. A ritual is tasting the presence of the earth in every bite. For 90 days, and let each meal remind you that you are connected to something larger than yourself. When you walk, do not drag your body through space. Walk with intention. Feel the ground pressing back against your feet. Sense the rhythm of your steps as a kind of drumbeat. The street, the corridor, the forest path. Each becomes a passageway if you choose to notice. A routine is walking while lost in thought. A ritual is walking as if you are part of the dance of existence itself. When you work, treat the tools in your hand with reverence. The pen, the keyboard, and the hammer, the brush, are extensions of your being. A routine is moving through tasks without thought. A ritual is recognizing that through this work you shape reality. Even the smallest task can be carried with the awareness that you are imprinting yourself upon the world. When you prepare for sleep, do not collapse into unconsciousness. Wash your face slowly, and let the water cleanse not only your skin but the residue of the day. Dim the lights, lower the sounds. Allow your body to know it is crossing into the realm of rest. A routine is ending the day without care. A ritual is surrendering to sleep as if entering the arms of a hidden teacher. Every act is a chance to declare meaning. 90 days of rituals is 90 days of remembering that life is not a sequence of empty motions, but a series of thresholds. Each gesture, when consecrated by awareness, becomes an offering, and a signal to the unseen within you and around you that you are awake to the mystery that moves through even the smallest moments. The human mind is addicted to answers. We crave certainty, and we hunger for conclusions. We rush to close every open circle. Yet the deepest transformations are not born from answers but from questions that resist closure. For 90 days, and you must choose a single question and carry it like a hidden flame. Not to resolve it, not to silence it, but to let it shape you from within. A question is alive. When it is genuine, it stirs the soul. It keeps you awake at night. It interrupts conversations. It echoes in silence. Unlike an answer, which closes the door, a question opens passageways into unseen chambers. To hold one question faithfully is to accept that you do not yet know yourself fully, that there is more of you waiting to be uncovered. The question should not be trivial, and it must be heavy enough to bend the arc of your thoughts, intimate enough to expose your vulnerabilities, vast enough to invite you beyond the boundaries of your current life. You may ask, and what am I unwilling to give up? You may ask, what wound am I still protecting? You may ask, what would I risk everything for? Such questions are not puzzles to solve. They are mirrors, and they reflect the contours of your hidden longings and your unspoken fears. For 90 days, let this question be the thread running through your days. When you wake, whisper it to yourself. When you walk, let it accompany your steps. When you dream, place it beside your bed and see what the night offers in reply. At first, the question may feel abstract, distant, and as if you are reciting words with little weight. But as the days accumulate, it will begin to settle in your bones. You will start noticing how ordinary events seem to bend toward it, how conversations unexpectedly circle back to it, how your choices reveal hidden fragments of its answer. The purpose is not to pin the question down, but to live with it, and to allow it to permeate the surface of your life until it seeps into your actions. And a question carried with sincerity has the power to reveal the difference between what you say you want and what you truly desire. It exposes contradictions, it strips away masks, it unsettles the comfortable and confronts the evasions you tell yourself. Holding one question for 90 days teaches patience. It forces you to resist the cheap relief of quick answers and the shallow satisfaction of premature conclusions. It demands endurance, the willingness to walk with uncertainty as a companion rather than an enemy. Each day the question ripens a little more, and like fruit slowly sweetening on the branch, though you cannot rush its season. There are questions that become companions for life, but even 90 days with one sincere question can shift the architecture of the soul. It can open a space where something larger than thought begins to stir, and where you discover that the question is not only about the world you inhabit, but about the one who is asking each night, as the body surrenders to sleep, and the mind enters a theater where the hidden self performs in symbols. Dreams are not random fragments of chaos, they are coded messages, voices of the unconscious speaking in images instead of words. And for 90 days you must treat this theater as sacred ground and record what it shows you. Keep a notebook and pen by your bed, and let the first gesture of waking be the act of writing. If even a fragment, even a single sentence, even a fleeting image is worth catching before it dissolves back into silence. At first, the entries may seem strange, even absurd. A bird with human eyes, a door that leads to nowhere, a familiar face speaking in riddles. You may be tempted to dismiss them as meaningless. Do not. The language of dreams is symbolic, and symbols are bridges between the conscious and unconscious. A bird may not be a bird, it may be freedom, or fear of flight, or a forgotten memory disguised in wings. And the door may not be wooden hinges, it may be a threshold you have avoided, an opportunity denied, a truth you are not ready to face. And writing down your dreams each morning disciplines the mind to remember. Memory sharpens with practice. What begins as fragments, 2 or 3 words, will over weeks expand into full narratives, and vivid landscapes and intricate encounters. By the 30th day, you may find yourself recalling layers of detailed colors, emotions, conversations, textures. By the 60th day, and recurring figures may appear, archetypal presences that feel older than you, as if carrying wisdom from beyond your personal story. By the 90th day, and patterns will emerge that reveal themes woven through your inner life. To dream consciously is to recognize that you are more than your waking self. In daylight you live with logic, duty, and identity. But in dreams the deeper layers speak freely. They reveal the desires you repress, the wounds you conceal, the potential you have not yet embodied. A dream may confront you with a shadow you have denied, and a dream may present a version of yourself you did not know existed. A dream may offer a glimpse of paths not yet taken, lives not yet lived. The act of writing stabilizes these visions. Without writing, and they evaporate like mist under the sun. With writing, they become artifacts you can revisit, decode, and reflect upon. The notebook becomes a map of your inner landscape, and each page is a piece of correspondence from the depths, a letter you once received from the hidden world within. Over time, and this map begins to show you not only where you have wandered, but where you are being called. And to hold a dream on paper is to acknowledge that your psyche is larger than the daylight self you parade before others. It is to admit that wisdom moves beneath the surface, speaking each night in parables, images, and riddles, waiting only for you to listen with pen in hand. The body is not separate from the mind. It is the visible half of the same mystery. And every tension in the muscles, every ache in the bones, every surge of energy is a message from the hidden depths. For 90 days, you must choose one discipline of the body and commit to it with seriousness, not as a pursuit of vanity but as a dialogue with yourself. Running, fasting, yoga, martial practice, strength training, or even the simplicity of daily stretching, any of these can serve, provided you approach them with intention. The body remembers what the mind forgets. It holds the weight of your unspoken grief in the shoulders, the pressure of your unexpressed anger in the jaw, the echoes of fear in the chest and breath. To move the body consciously is to stir these memories, to allow them to surface and release. Sweat is not only the cleansing of the skin but the language of hidden burdens being carried out. And muscles that tremble are not only signs of weakness, but thresholds of growth where new strength is waiting to emerge. A discipline of the body teaches endurance. At first, and the practice will feel uncomfortable. The mind will resist, invent excuses, plead for delay. Yet by showing up each day, even when unwilling, and you begin to discover that willpower is not born in bursts of inspiration but in the slow repetition of showing up. Each session, each movement, and each breath deepens the bond between mind and body until they move as one. Through discipline, the body becomes a mirror of the soul. The runner who endures the long road learns patience with himself. The one who fasts learns the difference between hunger and desire, between need and craving. The yogi who holds a posture learns stillness within discomfort. The one who lifts weight learns to embrace pressure and to trust his capacity to carry more than he imagined. Each discipline reflects an inner teaching and a truth that cannot be read in books or spoken in words, but must be experienced through flesh and bone. 90 days is enough time for the body to change, but more importantly, it is enough time for the relationship with the body to change. No longer an object to be judged in mirrors, no longer a machine to be pushed for productivity, the body reveals itself as a companion, and a vessel, a teacher. It speaks in fatigue and recovery, in hunger and fullness, in tension and release. To ignore it is to remain half-conscious. To discipline it is to awaken to the wisdom it carries. And the discipline you choose is less important than the sincerity with which you carry it. The true work lies not in performance but in presence. Each stretch, each step, each repetition. Each pause is a moment of communion with the self you cannot see. The self that lives beneath thought but expresses itself through breath, movement. And in the beating of the heart, human beings are born into a web of connection, yet much of life is spent clutching, hoarding, guarding. The fear of loss shapes how we hold our time, our attention, and our gifts. For 90 days you must turn this instinct on its head. Once a week, offer something of yourself that costs you, not money alone, but something deeper, your energy, your presence, and your vulnerability. What you give is not measured by its size, but by the part of you that resists letting it go. When you give your time, you surrender the most finite resource you possess. An hour spent listening to another without distraction, without rushing, is an offering more valuable than any currency. To give time is to say, and your existence matters enough for me to step outside my own orbit. Such acts recalibrate the soul, reminding you that life is not only about what you build for yourself, but about what you help awaken in others. When you give attention, you practice the art of seeing. In a world where eyes are constantly diverted by screens and endless noise, true attention is rare. To look into another's face, to notice the tremor in their voice, and to hear not just their words but their silences. This is a gift that reshapes both giver and receiver. The one who offers attention discovers that the act of seeing deeply awakens vision within himself. When you give your talent, you participate in the circulation of creation. Whatever skill you carry, however humble, is not meant to remain locked inside. To cook for someone, to write a letter, and to share knowledge, to mend what is broken. These are not trivial gestures. They are ways in which the invisible becomes visible, where what lives within you takes form and serves something beyond you. When you give forgiveness, you release the chains around your own heart. Forgiveness is not weakness, nor is it the erasure of wrongs. It is the decision to stop carrying the poison of resentment and to let go of the burden that corrodes silently. For 90 days, practice releasing even small grievances. Notice how the weight lifts, how energy once bound in bitterness is freed to flow elsewhere. And each week, the offering may feel uncomfortable. The ego will whisper, hold back. You may not have enough. You might be taken advantage of. You might be overlooked. Yet this is precisely the threshold you must cross. True offering is not about convenience, it is about the surrender of control. The moment you release something that mattered to you, and you open a space within yourself where something new can enter. To live only for the self is to shrink into a narrow chamber. To offer of yourself is to step into the larger rhythm of exchange, and where what is given circulates and returns in forms you cannot predict. 90 days of offering is 90 days of loosening the grip of fear, 90 days of practicing abundance in the face of scarcity, and 90 days of remembering that what flows outward also flows inward.